This is the second of two videos about the quiz, the fifth type of activity that a designer can add to a lesson. In the first video, you learned about the quiz, how it works, and how we need to create a bank of questions. And we had created a quiz but not yet added any questions to it, so it's highlighted in red. That indicates that there's a problem to resolve. So let's click on the quiz title to get back to its content, and we can see the two problems that are flagged. There are insufficient number of questions for practice and for graded attempts, of course, because we haven't yet added any questions. So now we will click on Access Questions and start to create some. So to create our first question, let's click on the Add icon, and first we're prompted to add the question itself. So let me type a question here. What is the capital of France? And by clicking on Save and Next, I'm now prompted to answer or to enter the first answer. And we'll make it a wrong answer. We'll make it London. Now we click on Save and Next again, and now we'll be prompted to answer or to enter the second answer, and we'll make this Madrid. Clicking on Save and Next again, we're prompted to enter the third answer, and we'll make this correct, Paris. So we'll say here that this is the correct answer. Don't worry if you forget to do that, because you can always identify the correct answer on the previous screen. The fourth answer we will make Rome, and then we'll add a fifth and final answer to the question, and this will be Lisbon. And now we're finished, so we can click on the Finish button. And we've created our first question. And you can see there's one correct answer, Paris. Now, what about some of the other information about this question? First of all, when the student answers this question, must the student identify multiple answers? If the answer to this is no, in the online environment, the student will see radio buttons to the left of each answer, and they will select what they believe is a correct answer. If they change their mind and click on a different radio button, then the previous selection is undone. So there can only be one correct answer that the student chooses. Now, we could have two correct answers to a question. Let's say that we make London correct as well. If multiple answers is set to no, as long as the student selects one of these correct answers, then their answer will be marked as correct. But let's switch London back so it's incorrect. Now, what if we changed multiple answers to yes? Now, when the student answers this question, they will see checkboxes to the left of each answer, not radio buttons. And so the student can select 1, 2, 3, even all of the answers as correct. Now, in this case, the student must identify all the correct answers in order for their answer to be marked correct. So again, if we had chosen London as another correct answer, in this case, the student must click on the checkbox for London and for Paris. If the student selects just one of them, then their answer is marked incorrect. They must identify all of the correct answers if multiple answers is set to yes. But let's set it back to no. Now, what is a hint? When a student takes a practice attempt, they can ask for a hint if you've provided one. So let's enter a hint. Students won't have the opportunity to request a hint when they're taking the graded attempt. It only is visible and accessible when they're taking practice attempts. But let's enter a hint. There we are. So now, when the student sees this question, when they're taking a practice attempt, they can ask to see a hint, and that's what they would see. Now, what about an explanation? When the student has completed a practice attempt, they can see their answers and the correct answers, but they'll also see explanations of each answer. So here is our opportunity to provide an explanation. In this case, we'll just provide a little bit more information about Paris. And so this is the explanation that the student will see. And I see that London was still selected as a correct answer, so let's correct that problem. And there we are. We have a complete first question. Now, I can, of course, select the add icon to add another question, but let me instead create a duplicate of the first question. And so now we will be prompted with the same question and the same answers as before, but notice the ID is different. And so we will now say, what is the capital of Spain? And we've made the change, and of course the correct answer is already identified in the list, and so we just have to change which answer is correct. So we'll click on the check mark next to Madrid, and we will undo the check mark for Paris, and we have our second question. Of course, now we need to change the hint and the explanation as well, because we're talking a different country. And we'll point out that it's located in the center of the country. And of course the explanation is optional. There doesn't have to be one. So in this case, let's just get rid of the explanation. And so on this occasion, if the student answered this question, they would see their answer and the correct answer, but they wouldn't see an explanation as to why it's the correct answer. And so we would add more and more questions to the test bank. We can separate some questions. For example, if we don't want to include this first question in the graded quiz attempts, we can just take it out by clicking on the value there. And we could do the same for including or excluding a question in the practice attempts. If you wish to change the setting of all the questions in your list, then you can click on the value that sits above each column, and it will change all of the values in that column to be the item that you select. And so now you've seen the complete set of information about a quiz, how to create the quiz, how to enter questions within the quiz, about how the quiz is automatically validated. It's a time-consuming feature to add, but it's a very valuable one. Of course, you can keep the test bank small, but we prefer to create large test banks because there's enormous value to the student in being able to take multiple practice attempts.